think we'll get started now. Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Gray Owens. I'm Executive Director of Gender Equality New York. And I want to welcome you to tonight's event, which is an event that we have every year in honor of the Intersex Day of Solidarity. Tonight, we're really blessed to have a wonderful group of panelists and community members helping us bring this event to fruition. And we hope that you have an opportunity to sit back, learn a few things, hear some interesting stories. And we have a few surprises for you as the night goes on. But we're certainly happy to have you join us this evening. To start our event, what I'd like to do is make sure that we introduce all of our different people helping us make this event get started. And so I'm going to call out to each of you, each of our people who are going to be, helping us put this presentation together, to just introduce yourself and tell a little bit about yourself. Jim, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, here we go. My name is Jim Kostich. I was born in Rochester, New York in 1957. It's all hair dye. I'm actually old. I was identified at birth as being intersex. I'm one of the intersex people who they pick up the baby and say, well, we'll get back to you. What they told my parents was to take me home, dress me in yellow and green, call me by a nickname, Cookie, and wait and see if growth and development didn't sort my sex out, and it did. I'm right in between male or female. I'm neither. Now, what does that mean? That means that my genitals are somewhere in between, and I don't have gonads. I don't have ovaries. I don't have testicles. That's called gonadal dysgenesis, if you want a medical term. But in any event, I was not forced into a gender. I wasn't assigned a sex or a gender at birth. Rather, they flipped a coin, filled out my birth certificate, and I changed my mind, and so did everybody else. And by the time I was 3 years old, Cookie had disappeared, and Jim it was. Boy I was, and man I became. But it wasn't that easy, because when you're missing testicles, and as it turned out, I had one removed when I was 5, but I didn't find that out until rather recently. They stopped worrying about where my testicles were and what was going to happen if they didn't descend. But they were going to have to revisit it when puberty didn't happen, and puberty didn't happen.
So Jim, I'm going to stop you there. We're going to leave our stories. We're just going to do a quick introduction. And so, Christine, I'd like you to just do a quick introduction.
Hi. My name is Dr. Christine Coons. I'm a physician in Spokane, Washington. So I'm actually a few hours ahead of everybody else. I came onto the scene a couple of years ago when I was diagnosed with a intersex condition and didn't find it out until later on in life. Very grateful to be here and excited to be part of the presentation.
Thank you, Christine. John, you're on mute, John.
Try that again. Okay, I'm John Schindler. I'm from Long Island, and I was born with panhypopituitarism and mixed gonadal dysgenesis. So my internal gonads don't match like my external genitals. So I've been hernia prone to this day. I am basically a speaker on these issues now for over 20 years, and I think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, John. Yarrow, you're on mute, Yarrow.
Sorry, forgot that was on. I am Yarrow Walker Brown. I am the owner founder of Southern Tier Transgender Advocacy, and I use a lot of different labels that I usually simplify it down to either BXY, which is a combination of agender and masculine, or Xeno Man, which is a combination of concepts and in a masculine way. I always have some kind of pins on myself or necklace to identify myself, and crossing my fingers just because I have this little Loki pin that he doesn't get any bright ideas. So I'm grateful for being involved here, and who's ever's next.
All right. And Raven, please give us just a little intro.
Hi, I'm Raven Caldera, and I have congenital adrenal hyperplasia, which is with the most common intersex condition, and I have the most common form of that. So I'm not that special, and I am I'm an author, an educator, a shaman, a priest, and many other things. Okay.
Thank you, Raven. And we'll be hearing more of the various stories. I also want to welcome in Maria O'Leary and Hannah from Gender Equality New York, these wonderful staff members to help us keep moving forward. And so wondering, Christine, if you would be willing to kick us off and just give us you've got a lot of time. Tell a little bit about your life experiences so that our audience can have a better understanding of the intersex community.
Thank you. So as I mentioned before, I'm a physician in Spokane, Washington, and I started out my life, well, my earliest memories, I actually ended up with gender dysphoria. My first recollections of this were about 6, 7, 8 years old, kind of just the average statistic, and grew up my entire life in that stigma and fear of, oh my gosh, I cannot let that out. And so I hid, and one of the things that I hid myself into was a lot of work. I went through high school with more classes taken than anybody else. I was in choir, band, orchestra, lots of performances, lots of marching band, lots of just extracurricular activities. I even worked at a local restaurant. Anything I can do to distract myself. And that continued on into college, and my goal was to go on to be a physician because I knew the lifestyle was very busy, and that's what I ended up doing. So I graduated college with in 4.5 years, and ended up with a degree and a couple minors, and then went right into medical school. And I relished every single second of medical school. It was awesome because I can get married to the textbooks. Netters was my friend. It's an anatomy textbook. And what was fascinating is I actually even tried to figure myself out as I went through medical school. Yes, I learned everything about the Krebs cycle and several things about genetics and things like that. But even at that era, there wasn't a lot of information available. So I still struggled. Then came the time to get into medical residency, and I graduated or went right into internal medicine. And I currently practice as a hospitalist, which is a physician that works in a hospital setting. So if you're sick enough to be admitted to the hospital, I'm the one that takes care of you. Now, I had this gender dysphoria my entire life, and I had several patient experiences that I would like to share that I think were very profound in me understanding more about myself. So one of the things I do in the morning is I get to work very early. I usually arrive at 6:30 in the morning, and I print off a list of the patients that were given to me. And in the midst of this list of patients, I noticed that one of them, I go through their vitals, I go through their labs, I go through their medications. And interestingly enough, this patient had a history of being on cross-hormone therapy. And so in the back of my mind, I'm going, okay, here's a person that I need to be mindful of. Their preferred name, their pronouns. How can I engage with this person so that they can trust me? Thankfully, they were there for a relatively simple reason. I think it was just a skin infection. And so I went up at about 7 o'clock in the morning, started introducing myself to all my patients, and then I went to go see this patient. As I walked into this room, it was relatively dark. They were a young patient, and I introduced myself, and I do as I always do. I kneel to the side of the bed and talk about how their healthcare is going. I guess this patient decided that they trusted me enough. At the end of the conversation, they asked me, can I talk to a case manager? And I said, of course I'd be willing to get you a case manager. What question can I bring to them that I can be of help with? And I wasn't sure if I needed a case manager or a social worker, but either way, of course I was going to be willing to help. And this patient looked at me and said, I'm being sex trafficked. And here I am, kneeling to the side of the bed, and with words, I get bowled over. I get knocked down. And of course, we got them help. Actually, within a matter of a few minutes, the nursing staff was all changed. They had a preferred name. They were using their preferred name. They had preferred pronouns. They were using their preferred pronouns. This person felt safe, knowing that they had a place to be and that they were being taken care of. They were informed by the person who was sex trafficking them that their parents had died in some accident or another. Come to find out that that was actually not true, and we actually got this person back home with their family and taken care of. What that experience brought to me was the importance to see people, to hear them, and create a sense of a place of safety, knowing that they can get health care, and not only health care, but knowing them. Another experience I was part of was a friend of mine, and she has actually given me permission to share this story. Young person, actually a heavy athlete, runner, runs marathons and a very fast runner at that. Started experiencing chest pain. Went to the emergency room, and at a very young age, this person had a heart attack. They got admitted to the hospital. The cardiologists did their work, put in a heart stent, and they are doing fine to this day. But their experience was the exact opposite of the one that I encountered. They were rudely treated, mistreated, ignored, and it was very apparent that this patient, this individual, my friend, could not trust those doctors to treat them well. As a consequence of that, they did not follow up at the office of this physician, this heart doctor, who in essence saved their life from a heart attack, but ignored everything else. So in desperation, they actually called me and said, I need help, I'm out of my medication. I called it in. I did not want that heart stent to block off again. And I said, there's got to be another way that you can get connected with a different cardiologist or some other service. But here in the meantime, here's a short-term prescription to get you, taken care of. Powerful experiences to me. In the midst of me transitioning from assigned male at birth to a transgender woman, intersex woman, I wanted to know why I was experiencing what I did. Now, my experience is not different than any other people. I dived into genetics. I wanted to know. And so because I'm a physician, I have access to lab work and things like that, and come to find out later that I have a gene mutation or variation with hormone variability that makes me intersex. Something that I did not identify at birth. My parents didn't identify at birth, didn't identify at puberty. But I was fortunate enough to find out later on in life. So one of the things that I wanted to actually just finish off my thoughts with this is I have a dream that as we go forward from here, that the medical community, the social community, the world that we live in, stops looking at paperwork, looks up and sees people, and learns more about them. I want to be able to provide that power and strength to individuals so that they feel safe, knowing that they have a place to be and a community to be in, and to provide that hope. I know right now a lot of people are very nervous and scared about the results of the election. I personally am experiencing that as well. But I also know that there's a lot of people that are working in this community to help others and to do their darndest to make sure that we have a place to be and provide hope. So that's my experience.
Thank you, Christine. Raven, looking forward to your story. Please take as much time as you need.
Okay, so I'm 58 years old. I'm fairly old. This so this goes way back. I was raised female. I was assigned female at birth. My junk was close enough to female normal. It was a little off, but it was close enough to female normal to be that my parents didn't make a big deal, and neither did the doctors. But when I was 10 years old, I was reading a book of myths, unicorns and pegasi and things like this, dragons and such, and I ran across the word hermaphrodite as one of the myths, and something in my head said, "That's you. That's you." And I didn't even understand why, but it was in a book of myths, so in there with unicorns and dragons. So I said, okay, that can't be, and I put it aside. And 2 years later, when I hit puberty, I had a double puberty. I had both male and female secondary sex characteristics coming on. I grew breasts, I grew facial hair, my voice dropped to a contralto, and all this was it upset my mother terribly, and I was dragged to the doctors, and they discovered that I had secondary congenital adrenal hyperplasia is the name of the actual CAH. You can look up CAH. It's the most common form of intersex, and they tried to put me on corticosteroids, which is to stop the masculinizing, which is the primary drug of choice. Only they discovered that I'm allergic to corticosteroids, so they couldn't do anything about that. So they put me on high-dose estrogens, which I hated. They made me incredibly depressed. My body doesn't like estrogen, and putting me in high-dose estrogen. So I was incredibly depressed, grew enormous breasts that I didn't want, and my mother was instructed to make sure that I was made to do feminine things so that I would theoretically forget all about this whole thing. They actually put me through charm school. Yeah, see how much good that did. And I spent many years attempting to be a woman, in the sense of not in the sense just in the sense of, oh, I'm trying to do social things, but in the sense of trying to force my body, to keep forcing my body to not masculinize. So I was fighting an uphill battle all the time that was really wearing on me physically. Autoimmune disorders run in my family and have for a few generations, and after a while the high dose estrogens triggered lupus on top of everything else, so which I live with to this day, which is a no fun disease at all. I managed to, with my malformed uterus, I managed to bear one child. With a huge amount of medical, a whole medical team behind me to help with that. Funny, the whole medical team would help me to get one child to the 8th month of pregnancy. I was not able to carry full term, and I'm glad my daughter's in the world. She's a wonderful human being and everything, but it was impossible to get a whole medical team to support me when I decided enough is enough. I'm going off all these hormones. and I want to do something else. And I went off all the hormones and immediately started having hemorrhaging and all kinds of other things. And the endocrinologist that I would go to would not know what to do with me. They had only one script, and that was to push the person towards the gender they were assigned at birth. And eventually, at some point, they were testing various and sundry things, and they would always insist on shooting me up with the corticosteroids and watching while I would pass out, and just because they wouldn't believe me when I said I had a terrible reaction to them. And eventually they tried androgens, and it was wonderful. Within hours, the depression that I'd had for years had lifted, like within hours. And I said, okay, give me more of that. And they said, no, you can't have that because you'd have to be a transsexual to get those. Intersex people aren't allowed that. In those days, if you were intersex, you weren't allowed to gender transition, because that would give the lie to the lies they were telling the parents about if you push this child hard enough in this direction, they'll stay there, which clearly doesn't always work. Now, I know a lot of intersex people who are just fine with the gender that they were assigned at birth, and they feel that they are that gender, and they just have a medical problem, and they just want they just want this to go away, and that's fine. But for me, I identify as intersex as my sex, because that's not something I decided in my head. That is my physical reality. That is my physical reality. And but in my head, my gender is what I refer to as my gender is male of center. Not all the way male, but male of center. If there was a Kinsey scale of gender, I'd be like a 4 or a 5, something like that. At some point, I basically went to my trans friends and said, okay, so this is not something that's occurred to me before. I've spent all these years, I spent almost 30 years doing everything I can to do what the doctors told me to do. I'm done with it. How do I get testosterone? And they said, okay, go to a new endo, tell them this, don't mention the intersex stuff. Don't say anything about that. Just tell them, here's the script. Tell them that, and they will give you testosterone. And they did. And because I thought about it, and I realized that being female for me, I was like, yeah, okay, so I'm female, and also I have a bad back and bad knees and skeletal malformations, because with congenital adrenal hyperplasia, sometimes the ends of your bones harden up too soon, and that gave me skeletal problems. And I have lupus, and I have blah, 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 and all these things. And I realized that for me, being female was in the same list as all the disabilities, all the medical problems that I had to put up with and fight with and take meds for and suffer for, And I said, well, this one I can change. I can't change the rest, but I can change this one. So I did transition. So I am both intersex and transgender, which puts me in an interesting place because I often have to mediate between these two groups, because a lot of trans people assume that all intersex people are some shade of trans, and many intersex people don't consider themselves trans at all in any way, and or even queer or anything like that. And vice versa. And there's a lot of issues there, and so I often find myself in the middle, translating between the two groups and saying, no, you can't say that, you can't do that. No, you can't. You will have trouble getting people to get up and talk about their genital mutilation, this kind of thing. Some people will, some people won't. I was lucky in that way. I know that if my genitals had been even a little more off than they were, I would have lost them. That would have been, knowing my parents, I would have lost them, and that would have been it. And I know an awful lot of folks who did lose theirs, and it's really, really pretty hard. So that's where my gender stuff. Basically, I consider myself intersex and male of center, and I live technically as a guy all the time. I take about a quarter dose of the It took a while to find an endocrinologist who was I went in as a trans man and saying okay, I'm a trans man, and they started me on this, and I had to come out and say, okay, can I take less of this, because I don't think I need all of it. I don't think I need this huge amount. And they said, all right, well, we'll start slow, and I take a quarter dose of what the average trans man takes, because for me, a little goes a long way. My body is very sensitive to testosterone, but in a different way than it's sensitive to estrogen. It hates estrogen. And I know some trans people are just horrified that my initial push to change my body was because I wanted hormones that wouldn't drive my body crazy. And I didn't identify heavily with the female social role. There's a lot of things I'm not thrilled about the male social role either. So the heck with social roles. I just do what I feel like. I do what's comfortable, which I like my facial hair, and that pretty much is the kicker that means I live as male. I did have chest surgery and remove the enormous breasts that the forced estrogen grew. And that was 18 pounds of tissue that they took off me that didn't have to happen if it wasn't for all those forced hormones. And on a quarter dose, my facial and body hair went crazy, and that's all good. So I live as male. I live with my two partners in the middle of nowhere, out in the woods, and my wife of 27 years is a trans woman, and my partner of 20 years is a trans man. And I consider myself pansexual, which is for me, that just feels right and fits right with the fact that I'm intersex and I'm in between everything, and I am the mediator between all these different parts, these different pieces. And I've been educating people and talking about this and talking about spirituality and trans issues and intersex issues and all the rest of these for a couple of decades now. And so as far as I'm concerned, and one tiny little anecdote, I'm also a professional editor of books, and a woman sent me her book to edit, and it was on it was a religious book, and in one little place in the book she talked about God's mistakes, and she used, I'm going to quote unquote, hermaphrodite children as God's mistakes in this book that I was editing. And in fact it said, how are these people, how can they even live, how can they even have a normal life? I just was like, oh my God. Now I understand why the powers that be wanted me to edit this book. And I was like, okay, we have to talk about your content here. I realize you didn't know when you picked this editor that I was intersex, but we need to talk about that. And so that term was cut. And I said, I live just fine, thank you. I probably get more nookie than you do. And so it's just interesting how there's still there's a lot of ignorance around this, and I will let it pass now to everyone else on the next person in line. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raven. We do have a few minutes left, and I'd like to ask John, Yarrow, and Jim if you could do 5 minutes of your story. You know, we've had you in the past, but if you're comfortable, give us 5 minutes, okay? So John, how about we start with you, John? 5 minutes?
Okay, so I was born in a religiously affiliated hospital, and everything seemed normal, but when they asked my mom, do you want your child circumcised? She said yes, not realizing that they were going to do it immediately instead of waiting the 8 days that the Jewish tradition normally would do it. So when they did that, all of a sudden, whatever my issues were with pituitary and other issues were brought to a forefront because I stopped breathing, I turned blue, and I had to be revived with an intubation. I had to for food and for air. So for 2 weeks I was under observation with a tube for air and food, and when I got out of that, they said, okay, just watch your kid and make sure that, if anything else happens, but right for now, he's lucky he doesn't have brain damage. We think everything's fine for now. So I went home and everything did seem okay, except my parents noticed that my hair and my nails weren't growing, and my body didn't grow. And so they started taking me around to a bunch of different doctors, and eventually I found an endocrinologist who was connected to the National Institute of Health, and they had a brand new product that they were trying to test on new people with short stature. So I was a little person most of my life, but I was still taking small doses of human growth hormone at the time. And so I'm one of the earliest recipients of human growth hormone. When I hit 20, they said to me, how do you feel about sex? And I said, in the sexual revolution, I'm a conscientious objector. And so my doctor's like, well, take this drug and you'll stop objecting. And he gave me my first bottle of testosterone. And from that bottle of testosterone and the human growth hormone that I was taking, I grew 1.5 feet in 3 months. I stretched like a rubber band. And when they say that, that people have growing pains, it's not just an expression. It really does hurt like anything. And so basically I am now I'm taller than both of my parents, so yay me. And basically I have been I went through puberty at 20. I went from asexual before that in high school to in junior college. I did what was it called? I did an asexual and celibate group for the junior college, and then after taking testosterone at 20, I started into a 4-year college, and I joined the LGBTA group for that college, and I started doing panels on LGBT issues, and I wound up doing that for a number of years until I started to read some more articles about intersex, and I knew I had something in common with intersex because I knew I was on testosterone therapy and such. But most of the articles I read didn't talk about hormones. They mostly talked about chromosome issues and genital issues, and almost never did they talk about gonad issues or hormone issues. So as I got better and better at understanding my full body, because I didn't understand my lower surgery, okay, my mixed gonad surgery. I had undescended testes and some ovarian tissue, and I didn't understand most of that until my father passed away and my mother filled me in on everything. So yeah, that's one of those things that you think, oh, I think I have part of this figured out, and then I found out, oh, by the way, you're not just hormonally intersexed, you're you're also gonadally intersexed as well, and it turns out I have a nephew who's got hypospadias and Cordy, so it runs in the family apparently, but just not the same issues. But yeah, intersex is something that sometimes runs in families and sometimes doesn't. It's really up in the air. But yeah, so I now do these talks for my local teaching hospital, and I've been doing this now for over 20 years, and I started to use they them pronouns recently, and I basically have wound up helping not only people who understand their own relatives who are intersex, but I've helped also people who came out in one of the classes I was in. We had a transfer student from China who said, "I think I have what you have. I'm 23. I haven't gone through puberty yet, and I need an endocrine doctor while I'm here in the United States because my parents won't let me see an endocrine doctor in China." So I wound up giving her my own endocrine doctor, and like a couple of years later, she's like, "You have no idea how much you saved my life. Like, you and your doctor like changed everything for me, and I am so much happier now, and like, thank you, basically, you know." So I was like, okay, this is worth it, and this is why I do this, and this is, you know, like why it's important to recognize who we are and our community, and I'll leave it at that.
John, thank you so much. Yarrow, are you comfortable talking for 5 minutes?
Yeah. So I was listening to when I was listening to Raven's experiences, I resonated with a lot of it, but there were some major differences. I was assigned female at birth, and I believe that the only reason I was because there was no phallus. Because what I began to understand later in life, due to my gynecologist, I was originally slated for surgery that she believed was to remove excess hymen tissue. She thought, oh, I can just, you know, take a little bit of this out and you'll be fine. When I woke up from the anesthesia, my mom was sitting next to the bed, and my gynecologist who had performed the surgery was sitting next to my bed, and she was holding a pamphlet that had a diagram of, you know, typical female genitalia, but she had drawn over it in pen, and she said, "This is what you look like, okay? You have an unusually large urethral opening that runs the length, and over here is this teeny tiny little vaginal opening, and all I could do was widen it, so hopefully that you can wear tampons now. Otherwise you'll never be able to have penetrative sex, and you'll never be able to have children of any kind." So and it kind of filled in the last puzzle piece of where I was at with my body, because I was adopted as at 18 months old, and pretty much from the get-go I was constantly running into, my parents were constantly running into a different physical issue, some anatomical quirk. I had a heart murmur. I had my tailbone never fused properly. My legs were 2 different lengths. They just kept on discovering things about my body that just weren't, you know, normal. So when that finally happened, it was like, okay, this finally makes sense. I'm not, you know, your average person, and I don't fit into either gender box, and I don't. And then also, as it so happens, that I should have been diagnosed with autism when I was little, because I was already diagnosed with dyspraxia, and I was already diagnosed with sensory difficulties. I forget exactly what it was, but so everything started to make sense in my life in my late 20s, and that around in there is when I finally acknowledged that I was non-binary, and only just started my gender transition in 2022 with testosterone, and now I finally feel brain and body and everything match up together. But like John too, I identify as asexual. As a matter of fact, I identify as aromantic asexual. I have no interest in other people, and I think a lot of that comes down to that too. So and also is profoundly influenced me spiritually, because like I said, from the get-go, also everything made sense when I found Loki, and you know, the fact that there is a god that is gender fluid and everything, it just further made everything make sense for me. So I've become, you know, I do the same things. I public speak. I want people to know about this, but I also, the spiritual angle of things is very important to me, to try and, you know, communicate that this is not only natural, but this is something profoundly, you know, was considered sacred in a lot of cultures. So, and I mean, and I did deeply admire Raven's work, his books. I own like 5 of his books, so I wanted to bring him and just, you know, to say that to his face. So yeah, that's where I'm at too.
Pretty amazing. Thank you, Yarrow, for that. Jim,
Sure.
You got 5 minutes, okay?
Just had to hit my unmute button because my children were getting loud. Picking up where I left off. I got to the point where I didn't start puberty and wasn't expected to start puberty. And so I needed to see a physician. I needed an endocrinologist, or I needed someone. My father got a referral to an endocrinologist in Rochester. My mother got a referral to a new sexologist in Buffalo named Anke Earhart, may she rot. And Anke Earhart is one of the horrors that worked hand in hand with John Money. I am 10 years older than Raven, and the things that got him missed me by that much. They could not do to me what they ended up doing to a whole lot of intersex children, which was to cut off their genitals and say that they were female, as if females don't have genitals. And that's what they did. They didn't do it in Buffalo. They did it in, or rather, they didn't do it in Rochester, but they did it in Buffalo. They did it at Johns Hopkins. They did it in Chicago. Well, my father was given me as the child that he should raise because my mother couldn't deal with the freak that I am. And so I belonged to my father. My father took care of me. So my father was at all of these appointments in Buffalo. And when they finally said, after about a year, and I was suicidal and I was sick, I had anemia, I had osteopenia, I was sick. I needed to start puberty and I couldn't do it. They said that they wouldn't prescribe me hormone replacement therapy unless my father would agree to pay $10,000 for experimental surgery that would allow me, this was in 1973, that would allow me to be able to stand urinate, because they did not allow anyone to grow from a boy into a man unless they could write their name in the snow. Now, I'm going to tell you a little secret. My husband had a 7-inch dick. And he couldn't stand to urinate because he was missing a leg. Laugh now, it's funny. My son can't. He's in a wheelchair. All of these big guys with these great big beer bellies, they can't stand to urinate. But this is what they told me. I was 14 years old, and they told me that our society is set up for males and females and nothing else, and the way I was nothing. This is a leading sexologist in the United States. A leading sexologist. My father grabbed me by the hand and said, "You people have the first idea what makes a man or a woman. You're not gonna experiment on my kid as a guinea pig anymore. And he pulled me out of there, took me to the nice, kindly endocrinologist back in Rochester, and I've been fine ever since. I grew up and I'm fine ever since. No surgery, no need for surgery. And I'm a gay intersex man. Gay is my sexual orientation. Man is my gender. Intersex is my sex. I don't have any ovaries. I don't have any testicles. I have a tiny penis, severe hypospadias, and Cord E. And at 44 years old, I got a terrible infection. And the result of the infection was that I had a perforation and found out that I have a vagina at 44. So yes, I was identified at birth as being intersex, but then again, I learned about more anatomy. Now, if you want to hear me tell all of that, get the documentary Intersection, because I talk about it in Intersection. But the important point I want to make about my story is that I had good medical care, really good medical care, and I'm fine.
Thank you, Jim. And with that, now that we've had everybody go, we're going to go back to our presentation. And Jim, you're actually up next. So just give me a second so I can set us up here. All right. So now we're going to talk about Herculine Barbine. Jim, it's all yours.
As I started to work on this, I had originally read Herculine's story in Alice Dreger's book, Hermaphrodites and the Medical Invention of Sex. Now, it's an okay story, but it also includes very graphic illustrations from this person's, she was never known as Herculine, that's a name she never heard, autopsy. And this was the first time I ever saw anybody with genitals just like mine. I was flabbergasted. Well, I bought Michel Foucault's book. Foucault was a 1970s gay philosopher and historian in France. And he took on the obsession of 18th century people with hermaphrodites. And he was able to get a hold of Herculine Barbine's biography. And he had it translated and published. So if you buy Michel Foucault's book, you get to read her words about her life. And when I prepared this, I used this to prepare what I was going to say. So we're going to go real fast through these two slides, but I'm going to make a couple comments that aren't made here. And that's because this isn't the story about a monster. This is a love affair. This is a love story, a romantic, highly hot love story. And it's a whole lot like Romeo and Juliet. It doesn't have a pretty ending. But the story of love, as always, is gorgeous. Okay. She was born Herculine Barbine to a poor family in Saint-Jean-d'Angely, France, November 8th, 1838. She was a child. She lived her whole life in the 1800s. Assigned female at birth, she was raised as a girl known as Alexina. That's the only name that she heard once she was put in to the convent that she would grow up in. Her father died when she was very young, but she and her mother were fortunate enough to have a benefactor who funded Alexina's education at several convents. She ended up at one in particular that gave her an absolutely idyllic girlhood. In her mid-teens, she fell in love with another girl. As a result, she was invited to serve as that girl's lady's maid until the girl married. So she went to live with that family and lived with her lover as her lady's maid until it was time for the girl to marry, and then she went and got married, and Alexina had to find another gig. At that point, she was given an opportunity to attend a 2-year teaching certificate program at another convent. Where she met Sarah, and they fell madly in love. Madly. Crazy. Not wanting to spend a minute without the other one. Love. By the time she was 19, but she had not developed in a typical way. She had not had any female secondary sex characteristics develop at all. None. She was small, she was skinny, she was sickly, and she was hairy. Her mother was frantic. Mother Superior was frantic. And they started taking her to doctors to try to figure out what was wrong with her. She started getting persistent pelvic pain and ended up with medical advice. The doctor examined her and knew what she was, but he was so scared of the consequences that instead he just treated her, gave her medications that he hoped would get her period started. That didn't work. Pain came back. It kept coming back and kept getting worse and worse and worse. She consulted another physician. That physician uncovered more information, but at this point, Mother Superior was there, and so was a representative from the state, along with the physician, because they suspected that they were going to discover that she wasn't female at all. It was revealed that her anatomy was intersex. She was reassigned to a male gender because they were able to demonstrate that she wasn't likely to have anything like ovaries, but they found testicles. One hadn't descended and one had. They were able to express semen, although she didn't have any sperm. She did have a vaginal opening. It all revealed that she was intersex, but she was forced by the state, by a judge, backed up by the church, to give up her position in society and everything she had ever known and live as a man. It's practically overnight. You're a man! She tried to. She couldn't pull it off. She did hope that she'd be able to marry Sarah. It had been proven she was male. Oh, no, 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 no. And so the scandal, she had been living with her lover's mother, and now it was known that she was really male. That's the scandal. Not that they were lesbians. No, they weren't. Not that she was intersex. No, that wasn't the problem. The problem was that Sarah's mother had let them live together, and she was really. And that wasn't permitted. So her name was changed to Abel, and she was sent off to dress as if she was man, live as if she were a man, in a new city where nobody would know anything about her, working as a clerk for a railroad. She couldn't pull it off. She couldn't do it. She committed suicide at the age of 29. And this right here, this was found in her body, under her body. Her words, her description of what her childhood and her life was, and what it all meant to her. It's confusing, it's confused, it's very difficult reading because it's so emotional. She describes a childhood, a girlhood, and a young womanhood full of love and joy. And it all was put to an end by a court order that forced her to live as if she were a man. She had no idea. She'd lived her whole life in a convent. What did she know about manhood? Or men? Or maleness? Or masculinity? Now, I just want to say one little thing about forced gender and sex assignment, because that's the direction we are headed in as a nation. The rest of the world is not headed this direction, but 2025 wants to put us there, back to Hercules' situation, where it doesn't matter what your doctor says. It matters what the state says, and the state will tell you what and who you are. That's what happened to her. We need to be very careful. Her life, while she was alive and allowed to live as herself, was beautiful. And it was full of a romantic love story that, quite frankly, is heartrending. We need to elevate love above hurdles. And so when we remember her every year, I hope that we remember the love story and accept the warning that comes as a result. Because her life wasn't a tragedy. It was a triumph, but the world didn't have a place for us. And almost instantly, I was hearing and then singing, because that's what I do. I sing. I'm actually good, but there's a place for us. I'm gonna stick something here, if it'll go, in the comments. I don't want you to go to it until afterwards, but let me see if I can get this to go in. It's a link to an incredible YouTube, yeah, that just went. An incredible YouTube performance of There's a Place for Us. And if you click on that at the very end here, it'll be a good way to end this whole celebration and marking, because that would be her hope. The end.
All right. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go back to the presentation, and we are going to move to the next part of our presentation, which is how to be an intersex ally. And John, I believe this is your area.
John, unmute.
I'm sorry, I keep muting myself to make sure I don't, like react to people in a way that throws them off. I'm sorry. Okay, so this is how to be an intersex ally. Our first point here is view being intersex as a positive, natural variation rather than an abnormal or disordered variation. Typically, intersex people have either have healthy bodies that happen to look and work a little differently, or work a little differently. The next one is understand that intersex people exist in all cultures and societies throughout history, and that the existence of intersex people is worthy of celebration. Okay, understand that everyone has a right to make informed and educated decisions about their own bodies. Amen. Okay. Listen to intersex people. Read articles by intersex people. Watch videos made by intersex people. And follow intersex people and intersex-led organizations on social media. Do your research and learn about the unique issues that intersex people face. Talk about intersex issues, advocate for intersex people, and boost their voices to spread awareness. Okay. Encourage others to treat intersex people respectfully by using their preferred pronouns, mine are they, them, by the way, I forgot to put it in earlier, and not asking invasive questions about their medical history. Again, good point. Okay, and now also, we'd like you to shut down negative talk or dehumanizing language that refers to intersex people. Call out intersexism when you see it, whether it's people excluding intersex people or bullying people for their intersex traits. And that's the end of part one, and part two is taken over by Yarrow.
Okay, never out an intersex person because of the stigma and discrimination that they could face. Never use the term hermaphrodite to refer to a person's identity unless an intersex person has reclaimed it for themselves. Respect the way intersex people self-identify and realize that intersex people often have different relationships with gender and transitioning than cis or trans people do. Don't assume you know intersex people's gender identity or sexual orientation. Support the creation of advisory bodies to develop appropriate human rights-based lifetime intersex standards of care with full, meaningful participation by the intersex community representatives and human rights institutions. And this is something, by the way, that we're working on right now with the New York City Department of Health. Support effective legislative protection from discrimination and harmful practices on the grounds of sex characteristics. Observe the Intersex Awareness Day on October 26th and the Intersex Day of Solidarity on November 8th. Both are internationally observed days designed to highlight human rights issues faced by intersex people. Support and donate to intersex activists and organizations. Most intersex advocacy organizations are unfunded despite their significant expertise and knowledge. My organization is called Southern Tier Trans Advocacy, but I definitely also have an intersex component to that because it's important.
Thank you, Yarrow.
Yeah.
So now we're going to talk just a little bit about legislation, and specifically we're talking about legislation to protect the bodily autonomy of intersex children. Advocates and allies have determined that in order to protect intersex babies and children, legislation needs to be passed in 2 steps. The first is passing legislation that creates sources of education for doctors and families with intersex children. And then step 2 would be to pass legislation that delays medically unnecessary treatments on children born with intersex traits or variations in sex characteristics until they reach the age of majority, which is the threshold of adulthood as recognized or declared in law. As an adult, they can then decide what procedures they want done to their bodies. The good news is that the City of New York passed Local Law 60, which was passed in April of 2021, and it required the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to conduct a public information and outreach campaign designed to address the provisions of medically unnecessary treatments and interventions performed on individuals born with intersex traits or variations in intersex characteristics. The educational outreach includes creating educational materials for parents and guardians of individuals born with intersex traits or variations in sex characteristics, creating resources for medical practitioners, identifying community outreach partners, stakeholders, and opportunities for distributing materials and resources. In the development of public information and outreach campaign, the department shall consult with individuals and organizations with expertise in intersex traits or variations in sex characteristics, including individuals who are intersex or who have variations in sex characteristics. So New York City passed Local Law 60 in April of 2021. Here in New York State, Assembly Bill 5627, Senate Bill 5399 was passed in the 2023 legislative session and signed into law by the New York State Governor Hochul, on November 8, 2023. This bill amends public health law requiring New York State Department of Health to conduct a public information and outreach campaign on medically unnecessary treatments on persons born with intersex traits or variations in sex characteristics. And I'm happy to tell you that the Department of Health is currently working on the required information with community members, many of which are on this call today. So really, really proud and happy about that. We're now going to talk a little bit about groups that support and provide advocacy. Jim, this is yours.
I'm unmuted. Organization Intersex International is an exciting and wonderful organization that was formed. I know quite a bit of history about this. I lived through it after some really bad things happened in the United States in 2006. Really bad things to the intersex community. As a result, an organization that had been popular here was taken down. And a new organization, OII, was started by a man named Curtis Hinkle, who is a very good friend of mine, and an intersex man who is also a linguist and French speaking. And what he did was he started the organization in French speaking Canada. They hopped the ocean and also started in other French speaking countries. It spread all throughout Europe, then jumped to Australia, where it blew up into this enormous organization. And it became what is now OII International. It didn't have a chapter in the United States until I begged Curtis to let me start one. He said yes, but my health tanked. I have health problems and I wasn't able to continue. And so I passed it along to another intersex person. And then it's passed along again. But we now have both Intersex Campaign for Equality, IC4E, which came out of this, and other organizations. Now, Interconnect is an exciting organization that was started as a disorder group. A bunch of people with a particular variety of intersex got together to talk about their variety. But after several years, they had so many people asking to join in that they opened it up to all intersex people. And now it is devoted to education, advocacy, and even legal work for all intersex people. I went to the Niagara Falls one, both Vicki and I went, and that while I was there, I gave 2 separate talks, met a lot of people, and oh my gosh, that's a great organization. Now, Interact is an organization that was started by the parents of intersex children, and it is for the advocacy of intersex kids and teenagers. Intersex Justice Project, I don't know very much about, except that they are working legally. And of course, John should speak to intersex friends and family, because that's John's bailiwick.
Well, actually, I'll talk about both of those if you want.
Absolutely,
real quick,
go ahead.
Real quick, Intersex Justice Project is a group between Pigeon Pagonis and let's see, her friend in Atlanta, whose name doesn't ring a bell yet. It'll come to me soon. But basically, they got together and they protested at the hospital that did the intersex surgery for Pigeon in Chicago. And so she was able to get them to not only stop doing intersex surgery, but to create an advocate who I met at the Interconnect conference with you in Niagara Falls. And that person is a medical person, but they also advocate for intersex people in the workplace and I guess out of the workplace too.
One of the exciting parts of that was that Pigeon had been working on this project for 10 years, and they finally got a surgeon at that hospital who was also a trans woman, and she pushed the thing over the top, and it stopped the surgeries at that hospital. They're no longer doing it.
Wonderful.
So Intersex Friends and Families is a group that started as a regional. We were supposed to be, what was it, when Jim and I were on the original organization Intersex International board, and the board was disbanded, and they moved their headquarters to Australia from Montreal. We had a choice of either joining the Intersex Campaign for Equality, which is OAI USA, the national group, or we could create our own regional for New York and New England, which we did. But our friend Vicki, who founded Intersex Friends and Families with her partner, who was not intersex but wanted to be active on intersex issues, we basically set up, she and her partner, I think, set up the Facebook group. And because Facebook is so, I guess, welcoming and so easy to access for a lot of people around the world, that some people, from different countries felt it was actually safer and easier to join IFF on Facebook than it was to come out and join groups in their own country. So all of a sudden, we're no longer a regional group. We have over 1,000 members from all over the world.
Wow. Thank you, John. So now's the moment. We're going to stop sharing our screen. We have a very special a moment, and that is that I would like to again introduce Raven, who's going to do a song for us. Raven, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. John, would you mute yourself?
Certainly.
No problem. Thank you very much. Okay, this song, I wrote this song for the Transgender Day of Remembrance, actually. But it's not a song about being intersex. But I was asked to sing it anyway, and it's called Between. Between the ice and the steam is the ocean. Between the day and the night is the dawn. Between the darkness of space and the fire of the sun is the life of the earth and the flash of the star. Between the man and the woman we walk here, but the mystery we held will live on. As long as the children of our hearts and our souls keep remembering who we are. Between the door of the dead and the living, we are the warrior dead of your tribe. Your ancestors lost to the hand of the foe, between the storm of his hate and desire and fear. You carry all of our dreams under your skin. Your body's memory keeps us alive. We were the children of our hearts and our souls, and there are more of us every year. Between the ice and the steam is the ocean. Between the day and the night is the dawn. Between the darkness of space and the fire of the sun is your face in the mirror and the flash of the star. Between the woman and man we were caught here, but the blessing we held will live on. As long as the children of our hearts and our souls keep remembering who we are. Remember who we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Raven. That was awesome. Appreciate it. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. It has been quite an evening. First of all, what I'd like to do is thank our special guests, Raven and Christine, for coming on and helping us create this wonderful event. I want to thank our Intersex team, Jim, Yarrow, and John, for their help in doing this presentation. Of course, I want to thank our Jenny staff, Maria and Hannah. Thank you both for being here and helping us get through this. And I want to thank the audience for coming, having your open mind, coming and learning more about the intersex community. There's a lot of work to be done. There'll be a lot of work to be done in the next 4 years, but I think we're up for it, and I think we're going to do what we have to do to take care of each other. So I want to wish everyone a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to our next event, which is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. You'll be seeing more about that in mailings coming out. We've already started that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's November 14th. So everyone be safe, be happy. And if we don't see you on the Transgender Day of Remembrance, please have a great Thanksgiving holiday. Good night, everyone, and thank you again.